My favorite is to see who comes in. Are they an Elphaba or are they a Galinda? But today you are an Elphaba.
I'm an Elphaba. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I love Glinda too. I probably would play Glinda, but emotionally, I'm Elphaba.
Fair. I think we're both.
Yes.
We're all both.
You got pink on, so yeah. Together we are representing.
Right. I go to Shiz. So.
Congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
Reviews are out. Amazing. Audience reception, amazing.
Oh, the reviews are out? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure you had no idea. You're coming to the end of months of press.
Yeah.
How are you feeling after years of work to get to this point?
My heart is so full. We have had this secret for years now. I've watched these women perform these amazing roles, and we knew there was something really special happening. I saw Cynthia Erivo evolve on set and find this beautiful version of Elphaba that even though I knew all the words, had never seen it in this way. I knew that Ariana Grande was breaking ground, that people think they know her, but they'd never seen this part, that her whole life was changing on camera. And so to share that and to see people's excitement that they're actually connecting to that and they're feeling empowered coming out of this movie, standing up, crying, laughing, whatever it is, that's why we get into this business, or at least that's why I got into this business. So it means the world.
What was the biggest challenge for you when you know, right, I'm bringing Wicked to the screen? Yeah. What is the thing that made you go, a little bit?
Every inch of it, every question, I would think like, okay, oh my gosh, how are we gonna make it into this movie and make it feel like one movie? That was the biggest itch on me, because I knew we had to do this structurally. It made a lot of sense. We couldn't have done it the other way. We tried and we'd rip it apart and it would turn into not Wicked anymore. So this was the purest form of doing that. But I knew that an audience would not accept a half a movie if we didn't do this right. We had to make sure that Defying Gravity, which is a gift in itself, but that on its own wouldn't satisfy. It had to have all the emotional plumbing from the beginning of the movie that you rooted this moment for Elphaba to have. So that was a haunting thing that even when we cut it together, until we showed it to like a test audience, I wasn't quite sure how people would react to it. But it's been really satisfying that everybody did really hard work to make that happen. Also, I mean, just creating the world itself is the technical part of it that was daunting.
Yeah.
When you're using all the levers of cinema to build Shiz, to build Munchkinland, to build a giant train or the head of the wizard that actually moves in real time, those were great engineering feats that took a lot of work, and I had to convince the powers that be to pay for that work. We had to gather a crew that was capable of pulling off that work. So that alone was something, and to balance that it wasn't taken, the movie wasn't taken over by those things, that we were always focused on the intimacy of this relationship. That balance I always had to be, my antennas always had to be up, and I always had to be on my toes to make sure the focus was right of where it had to be, but you couldn't let your foot off the gas at any moment, because everything had to be right.
I was very struck. I've seen the stage musical, and watching the film, it really felt like this is so faithful, but there are tweaks. There's this room to expand. And I'm kind of wondering, for what you said about Defying Gravity, was that the moment that you were kind of most nervous about, like I've got to kind of deliver in a certain way, or was there another moment as well where?
Well, that moment's the most obvious, because if you don't land that, or take off there, you don't have a movie. I mean, it just is. So in a weird way, that was the heart, and you had to go backwards from there. Okay, if she's gonna fly, then flying can't come out of nowhere. Just not acceptable in a movie. She has to have that secret talent somewhere. Okay, so the broomstick's not pulling her then, and she's not just sitting on a broomstick. It's not the power of the broomstick, it's the power of her. So we had to plant her relationship with gravity. We had to define what that means to have a relationship with gravity. Oh, gravity and nature. Okay, so nature and gravity and the effects of nature have a spiritual sense in Oz. Okay, so the history of Oz. Okay, Shiz was there before the wizard was ever there. So it was built by the animals and the animal educators. And so what did the wizard do when he got there? Oh, he put his emblem right there, and he changed the syllabus of what they need to be taught. Okay, so it was about digging into the culture, actually. Okay, the Munchkins, if ultimately Glinda's gonna lead the whole land of Oz, she has to care about these people. They can't be idiots. They have to be beautiful people who cultivate joy and love. They get the colors, and they get the honey, and they get the sugar of Oz, and they need a leader to guide them in the right way, and it just so happens the wizard is their leader, but eventually Glinda the Good will have to be that. So those little details just was a lot of work and thought, but that was what we knew had to happen in order for us to believe that this relationship was real and the stakes were that high.
Yeah, and as well as the Wicked stage relationship, there's obviously The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
And I very much appreciated the nods.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of nods,
in there,
a lot of breadcrumbs. Yeah.
And also kind of just, I really got the feeling of kind of that harking back to those splashy MGM musicals of that era.
That's very nice.
What was your approach to kind of honouring those sorts of things decades later when mainstream audiences potentially aren't quite as receptive to musicals as they were then?
Yeah. Well, we wanted this movie to feel like it has always been there. Like it was just on our shelf. We just forgot to look at it. We wanted to feel like it was about the fundamentals of the power of cinema. That we didn't have to use all the toys and zoom in and zoom out and drone through an arch and do all, we could have. We had all the tools in our tool belt to do that. But we wanted to feel like it had a pace and a feel of sort of a nod to the golden age of Hollywood, because in a weird way we are revisiting the story that we grew up with, and so if we could establish that, then we could break that as well. That Elphaba coming into the story is like, we've been believing in this story, that this yellow brick road is meant for everybody, because maybe it's not, and that this wizard is there to give us our dreams. Maybe it's not. Maybe we have to go chase it. And so I love this idea of, it's almost like Pleasantville, where you come into this very perfect suburban world, and you have to add color to it, and you have to break the characters, and it has to become more nuanced. And so every character we realized has to ask a first question. At some point when they wake up, Fiyero you have to see his brain break when she says, like, well, maybe you wouldn't be so unhappy.
Well, him as well, Jonathan Bailey, and you, the way you worked on that character, he didn't always land for me in the stage show.
Yes.
In the film, I was wowed.
Yeah, good.
And was that kind of a conversation that you were having? Because it's a love story between two women, more so than him, but absolutely. I still really was like, whoa, he is such a part of this film. Yeah,
that's so great to hear, because the words may not have changed almost at all for Fiyero, but the intention maybe. And I think it was the idea of this, what happens when you find out the truth? What happens when you see the Matrix? What happens when you realize that the story is not necessarily on solid ground? There's some sort of storyteller telling you this. And what happens when you take off the mask of what you think make people accept you? And that's sort of the thing that Elphaba cracks open in this. In the design, we wanted everything to be circular and perfect, and this is what the wizard has brought here, the circular nature, or at least nature is circular, and he's sort of infused this mechanical circular idea, and yet Elphaba's going to break it. That's why when she comes in, the glass breaks and you see jagged edges, and that's why her hat is a jagged edge, and that's why in every frame that she is slowly cracking this perfect circle, and so. For us, that was really important to have in there, and for Fiyero specifically, we had to find his true roots. When does he fall in love with her? What does he see in her that he needs? How does they run into her at first, and what is their energy like? That's Jonathan Bailey, 100%. He's a great actor, and he can do that in between words. He can do that, and that's such an important relationship. That will happen in the next movie, but we had to establish the effects of Elphaba. But by focusing on defying gravity and showing, okay, what is Elphaba's effect on everybody through that timeline, it automatically included Fiyero more, because it's the only other person that she really interacts with in a way that changes them. Even at the end, you see Bach as everybody almost abandons him. This guy who loves love and is so innocent, and suddenly everyone's gone and he's alone again, and all he's going to want is to connect again. And maybe, as you know, in movie 2, that he finds community again. It's just not in love. Maybe it's in hate. And there's some. So those things were very important to this story as we proceed in the story, and so some of those things need to be in this one as well. And Johnny's the best to do it. So.
And final, really quick question. I was glancing on Rotten Tomatoes this morning, seeing all of the huge amount of praise, the very, very few numbers of reviews that were slightly more negatively slanted, all written by men. And I wondered, I don't know what it is about musicals that inspires this gender divide.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Everyone has their own opinions about certain things, and we make movies. I make movies to get an audience that appreciates what we're going after and convincing others to go after. I mean, we made this for people who knew nothing about Wizard of Oz, who know everything about Wizard of Oz, who know nothing about Wicked, who know everything about Wicked. People who are in love with the book, and so for me, it is. I hope that anyone can come in here and see this and connect with it in a way. But if those who don't, I don't know. It's their own issues.
Just think it's like song and dance, and some people switch off, and it's like you're missing so much.
Yeah, but we try our best to at each form that dance and music comes out as naturally as possible. That's just an extension of the form of what we have. I mean, we have score in every single movie, and yet people aren't like, I don't go to a movie without score. It's just a part of it, and I think that's how I see musicals. It's just a part of this. The score, part of the dialogue. And yes, sometimes people, when they put a song in, you have the intro and the thing, and the lights dim, and you start the song. But that's not the way I feel musicals. I feel like it's when words aren't enough, you express yourself in any way. I can express it with a camera, and I can express it with a lighting change, or I can express it with just the way that the actor is able to give the audience at home an inside look of what they're feeling on the inside. So. Who knows where everybody's at, but I think what I've loved is seeing the audiences just react in such a huge way. I mean, they come out of this crying, screaming, feeling empowered, laughing, and that's why we make movies.
And singing along, definitely.
And sing along. Later, in December 25th, you can really sing along when we release the sing-along version. So.
Okay, that's probably sensible. Listen and admire.
Yes.
Sing later.
Yes, yes.